All right, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all honor and glory to the Most High God, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua. That's Yahweh, who the world inwardly calls God, in the name of the Son, Yahushai, who the world inwardly knows as Jesus Christ. Right? It's your brother Kazak Magun of the Angels of Yahweh. Right, coming at y'all with another video. We gonna go over couple news articles that I pulled up that kind of piqued my interest. I want to get into them and put the Bible with them, and we're gonna make it do what it do through the spirit and power of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. Right. So let me see if I can pull this up. Right. The first article that I got is off End Times Headlines. I go to this website, a lot. If you watch my videos, you should be familiar with it. Right. Basically a whistleblower website. There we go right here. Right. And it's basically saying the world has entered the most violent era it has been in decades, right? So they just, I guess you have scientists or you have people that research, the waves of violence in the world, right? And they calculate it and they said this is the most violent the world has been in decades, man. Right? Right. Let's go down. It says in recent years the global landscape has been marred by an alarming surge in violence, with researchers and experts describing the current era as one of the most violent in decades. According to a comprehensive analysis by the Telegraph, at least 50 countries experienced armed conflict in the past year, right? A scale of global unrest not seen since the post. Let me turn my right? It says a scale of global unrest not seen since the post World War II era. This article explores the factors contributing to this unprecedented wave of violence, drawing on data from the Armed Conflict Location and Event Data, or ACLED, and insights from the Global Peace Index. Right? It says the Telegraph reports that 2024 marked a peak in global violence, with 56 active conflicts across 50 countries, one of the highest accounts since 1946. Right. So the ACLED, they calculate, right, the waves of violence, right, in the world. Right. They go over the whole world and they said, in this past year, at least 50 countries experienced armed conflict. Right. At least 50 countries, right? And they haven't seen, it hasn't been on this scale since, what they said, 1946. That was during World War II, right? And that just shows you right there that, the state that the world is heading towards. Like you see this picture right here, this is going on in a lot of countries, not just third world countries, but this is going on in Europe, right? This is going on in I mean not Europe. Europe is a continent, right? This is going on in Ukraine. This is going on in Chicago, right? The Palestinian protests and all that. This is going on here in the US, right? So that shows you what state the world is in right now. So like yeah, let me see. Pull up the blue letter real quick. Pull up the blue letter. Because what is this telling you, man? What is this telling you? Right. Let's go to the book of Genesis. It's like okay. Let's go to the book of Genesis, the sixth chapter. All right. It's Genesis chapter 6, and I'm gonna start at verse 5. Right? Genesis 6 and 5. It says, and God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. Right? So, and that's how this world is today. Right? The way that people think, the way their minds work, right? They only thinking about evil and folly. Like when I just look at my people, the blacks and Hispanics, we only all we talk about is drugs, sex, violence. All we talking about is things that things that are of the flesh and all that. We always talking about things that don't really profit us nothing, right? And that's what our mind is meditating on every day, right? Our mind is meditating on these things daily, all throughout the day, and it's like the way what your mind meditates on is what you're going to be, right? Like as the Bible says, as a man thinketh, so is he, right? Let me see if I can pull that real quick. I'm gonna put it on my phone so I ain't gotta, you know, um, put it up on the computer. So like you, bear with me. Like I might be wording it wrong. Bear with me. Okay, Proverbs 23:7. Right, I was wording it wrong. So like you. This Proverbs 23:7. It says, "For as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. Eat and drink, saith he to thee, but his heart is not with thee," right? So as a man thinketh in his heart, meaning in his mind, right? So is he, right? So whatever you meditating on, whatever you're gravitating to, you're gonna naturally become that. The brother Maba will talk about this all the time, right? Um, so going back to Genesis, right? So like I want to grab another precept on that, right? I'm gonna grab another precept. This is First Corinthians, right? Was that 15 and 33? This First Corinthians 15 and 33, it says, "Be not deceived. Evil communications corrupt good manners." Right? So this is why the earth is so violent right now, right? Because as it says in Genesis chapter 5, I mean chapter 6 and verse 5, and God saw the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually, right? So we constantly meditating on evil, right? These evil communications corrupt our manners, as it says in 1 Corinthians 15 and 33, right? If you constantly meditating on it, if you constantly putting this into you, right, putting this negativity into you, you're gonna give off negativity, right? And that's what the earth is, you know, that's the vibration of the world right now. The vibration of the world is violence, sex, lust, you know, drugs, whatever, right? That's the vibe of the earth, and it's going to only grow and get worse and worse, right? Until the Lord, sends His Son back, to establish order once again, right? Verse 6. And it repented the Lord that He made man on the earth, and it grieved Him at His heart, right? So the Lord was kind of, upset, you know, with what was going on. Even though the Lord governs everything, He was upset, with how things was going, right? It says, and the Lord said, I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, and the creeping thing, and the fowls of the air, for it repents of me that I have made them, right? But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord, right? I'm going to jump down to verse 11. It says, the earth also was corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence, right? So the earth was filled with violence, as they saying in this article right now, right? It says the Telegraph reports that 2024 marked a peak in global violence. A peak, meaning it's the peak is the top. It says with 56 active conflicts across 50 countries, right? One of the highest counts since 1946, and that's World War II. That's World War II era. So it shows that the world is heading into World War again, right? Because they didn't see these peaks of violence since that time, since that era. So it tells you right there that the world is heading into World War III. It says the conflicts range from the civil war in Myanmar to the ongoing war in Ukraine and the Israel-Hamas conflict in Gaza. All these things are going on right now, right? You also got China and Taiwan, right? You also got uh 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 Iran. I mean, no, not Iran. Um, what is it? India and what is it? Pakistan, right? India and Pakistan, right? They going at it, right? So you got a lot of violence that's going on right now in this earth. You got a lot of world tension, right? You got a lot of tension in the world, right? And Yahweh Shah told us that it was going to be like this, upon his second coming, right? Let's go to the Matthew 24. All right, this is the book of Matthew, chapter 24, and I'm gonna start at verse 6, right? It says, and ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. All these are the beginning of sorrows, because why? It's the beginning of sorrows because that's not a happy time in the earth. It's not going to be a happy time, right? It's not going to be a time of you taking your kids to the park and then y'all going to get you and your family, y'all going to get pizza, and then y'all going bowling after that. Y'all having all these good times. No, this is the beginning of sorrows, right? This is the beginning of times where people are going to start getting real militant, and people are going to start getting real selfish. People are going to start getting real scared and real worried and real what is it, negligent. People are going to start taking on these characteristics, right? Because they see that the way that the earth is moving, and ultimately, if you being weak in those times, you're not going to survive. It's going to be survival of the fittest out here. That's why it's the beginning of sorrows. The days and times of you and your neighbor, kicking it, y'all, he coming over, sitting in your garage, and y'all got the lawn chairs pulled up, and y'all cracking a 12 pack, and talking about the game and all that. Those days finna be over. It's finna be done with. It's finna be done with. The days of you and your lady getting together, y'all going on a date, y'all probably go skating, going to the movies or whatever. That's finna be over. It's finna be done with. it's finna be the days of, we need to stack these cans and get these canned goods together. I need to get my weapons together, make sure all my knives is sharp, make sure my axe is sharp, make sure I got the fire starter, make sure I got my timber and my things to kindle the fire. Make sure I have my boots that I got packed, to make sure that that I could have these things for when we go out on the run, when we as pilgrims on the earth. That's the mindset of the person that's conscious about what's going on right now. But you got a lot of people that who got their heads in the clouds still, right? And they don't know that all these sorrows is coming. They don't know that, right? They don't know that. So like, it's another precept I want to grab. Mm, word. So like, yeah, how is it worded? Can't remember where everything at. It's like it's in this chapter, matter of fact. Mm, there you go. Right. This is Matthew 24:12. It says, and because iniquity shall abound. What is iniquity? Iniquity is sin. Let's go into this word real quick. Right. Anomia. Anomia, right? Greek word. Right. Anomia. It says the condition of without law, because ignorant of it, because of violating, contempt and violation of law, iniquity, wickedness. Right. So wickedness and unlawfulness is go, you know, be the standard in these times, right? Wickedness, unlawfulness, right? People not caring about anything, not showing love to anyone. It says the love of many shall wax cold. And that's why you see all these things that are happening in the earth. Right? I just watched a video of a white woman. She set the baby up on the bed and then damn drop kicked the baby off the bed and then walked up to the camera and started laughing. Like that's the love of many waxing cold. Like people wouldn't do that to kids, right? But now you seeing it's being did for likes and all of that, right? Iniquity is abounding, right? You got a lot of things happening in the world today, right? That are completely sold in wickedness, and people love it. That's why the scriptures say this. Ecclesiastes, what is that? 10. Ecclesiastes 10:7. No, 10:6. Right. It says folly is set in great dignity. Right. That's the part that I wanted. And a rich sit in a low place. Right. So it says folly. Folly. What is folly? Folly is, meaningless things. Folly is basically how you would say bullshit. Right. It's set in great dignity. Right. It's held to a high standard. People love to see people fighting. All the videos that's viral right now are people fighting, are women twerking, um, something to do with YNs doing some kind of mischief or whatever. That's all or some with sexual. That's all the videos and the things that are going viral right now. Those things are set in great dignity right now. They set in great dignity. And the rich sit in a low place. Right? The rich, who are the rich? The people that have a clear mindset. The people that keep the commandments, they rich spiritually, right? And they sit in a low place because they the ones that's overlooked. They the ones that's walked over. If you got some type of moral compass in this world today, people gonna look at you crazy. Like it's at the point where the most irate, the most weirdest things get praised upon. and you actually having standards gets looked down upon. That's the way that the world is moving right now. Like it's crazy. Like I'm gonna bring this up, right? Because this was a couple of weeks ago. I was at work, right? I was at work. My manager, he was stressing. He was like, "Yeah, we gonna have a meeting. Not this meeting, not the startup meeting, but we're gonna have a meeting. After the startup meeting, everybody needs to be there. It's very important. Everybody needs to be there." So I'm thinking like, damn, what they finna say? They finna start laying people off? Like, what's going on? Because I know these times is coming. What they start laying? They finna start laying us off? What they saying? Y'all fired or whatever. We need to double the workload. We doing this. Whatever. What y'all finna say? So I'm sitting. I'm trying to think like what they gonna say. And then the meeting starts. They got everybody in a circle, right? Our whole department. And basically, this lady, she's a higher up in the building, right? And she takes the microphone and she basically says that yeah, so I love this company because of how inclusive it is and how diverse it is, and it focuses on diversity and all of that. And we just want to let y'all know that due to our diversity, we want to welcome Violet. And then so I'm looking like, who the hell Violet? We all looking around, people clapping and all that. We all looking around like, who is Violet? We waiting on some woman to manifest herself and wave at everybody. But she points to this man. She points to a man that was already working here. He was working there before me. So how the hell I'm welcoming him, and he working there before me? But she talk about welcome Violet. The man name was Jake. His name was Jake, which is off because we call ourselves Jakes, right? We call ourselves Jakes due to our forefather. But his name was Jacob, a white man, right? And I guess he made a transition or whatever, right? He made a transition, and now we all got to call him Violet. And if you don't call him Violet, you go get fired. You go get fired. He gets to go in the woman's bathroom now and all of this. And I'm just looking like, this is just crazy right here. They talk about, yeah, welcome Violet. And I'm just thinking like, who is Violet? And then they point to Jake. And I'm thinking like, oh my God, this is crazy. This is crazy right here. Like, what is the world coming to? But this is the way that the world is moving towards, right? It's moving toward folly, right? It's moving toward violence and danger. It's moving toward mischief and wickedness. It's moving toward that's the vibration of the world right now, right? So yeah, they and then so everybody, after they pointed out who Violet was, they clapping. The whole department they sitting there clapping. I'm just standing around looking at everybody clapping. I'm thinking like, what the hell going on for real? This is crazy. This is crazy. Like like what? And I'm looking because it's a Muslim dude that I work with. He black. He swear he Muslim. He was, you know, doing the Ramadan and all that 2 months ago, right? But he don't talk to me no more because I pulled out all the homo stuff in the Quran. And I was showing him like, bro, how you gonna follow this Quran and it's saying all this weird stuff in it and all that. He stopped talking to me. He stopped associating with me. He sit at a whole different lunch table now and all that. He thought we was cool because he claimed he keep the commandments of Moses, right? He claimed he keep the law of Moses, but he really don't, but he thought we was cool. He thought we was on some type of wavelength with each other. But once I started pointing out all the stuff that's wrong with the Quran, he mad now. Now he don't rock with me no more. But I'm looking around at everybody clapping in the meeting, the Muslim brother clapping. I'm laughing. I'm laughing at him. I'm like, cause he look at me while he was clapping and then stop put his hands down. Yeah, cause I caught you, boy. I caught you. I caught you. And that Quran got you on that type of wavelength that you agreeing with things like this, man. You think that this stuff is okay. And that's wild right there. That's wild right there. Right. But yeah, where I was at though, as it says, Ecclesiastes 10:6, it says, folly is set in great dignity, and the rich sit in a low place, right? So you got a lot of folly that's being held to a high standard, because they, like I said, the reason I brought that story up is because we had to have a whole meeting with the whole department, and they made it seem like it was some bold thing that this man did to transition into a woman, right? To transition into a woman, and now we have to call him violent. They was like, we glad that you trusted us, to be your company and to know these things about you, and to not have fear and whatever. That's like, he needs to be, what's wrong with the world right now. He's supposed to be in fear of what the hell he's doing, right? Because you're in fear of something when you know it's wrong. When you know it's wrong, you're ashamed of it, right? And he should be ashamed of that, right? But let's go back to the article though, right? It says the data compiled by the ACLED and the Uppsala Conflict Data Program indicates that over 1 million fatalities have been recorded from the armed conflicts between 2020 and 2024, right? So 1 million deaths in the past 4 years, surpassing the total death toll from conflicts between 2010 and 2019. So in 4 years, it been more deaths than it was in, what is that, 9 years, right? It says this sharp rise is largely attributed to three major conflicts: the 2021 military coup in Myanmar, Russia's 2022 invasion of Ukraine, and the Israel-Hamas war that began in 2023. These conflicts alone accounted for more than half of the fatalities recorded in 2024, right? The distribution of violence has also become more widespread, unlike previous decades where conflicts were often concentrated in specific regions. 2024 saw every major region of the world grappling with significant levels of armed conflict, right? It says Europe driven by the war, right? And Salaki, I'm gonna grab a precept on that, right? Because they talk about all this armed conflict and all that. That's what the Lord said, right? Through the prophet Jeremiah. I believe that's Jeremiah 50 and 22. Right. This is Jeremiah chapter 50 and verse 22. It says, a sound of battle is in the land and of great destruction. So it's a sound of battle in the land. It's a lot of violence. That's a sound of battle, right? People gearing up for war, people buying tactical vests, people stocking up on canned goods, people buying guns, making sure they got enough bullets, make sure they got enough ammunition, to last the days to come, for when the markets crash, and when people start looting and doing all these other things, right? People are getting prepared for those days because they know that these days are coming, right? So, like, let me go to let me pull up the 1611. All right, let's go to the book of Second Esdras. It's like, I don't want the ninth chapter. All right. This is the book of Second Esdras, chapter 9 and verse 1. He answered me then and said, measure thou the time diligently in itself, and when thou seest part of the size past, which I have told thee before, then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made, right? So, when you see these things happening, you got to understand that, we almost are at the end. We are at the end, and that Yahweh Shai is getting ready to crack that sky with the millions of angels, and the elect are going to be gathered, and this is all going to happen in the peak of World War III. As soon as World War III start, we damn near there. We just got to endure through that. Ain't no telling how many years the war is going to be, but we know we there as soon as World War III cracks off, right? It says, therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world, right? And that violence, right? Those surges of violence comes from the uproars of the people, like when they stormed the Capitol, like when the George Floyd riots was happening and they was looting and doing all those things. That's uproars of the people. The Palestinian riots, that's uproars of the people. All of these things is what this scripture is talking about. It says, then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spake of those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning. So the Most High, he told us, he gave us the blueprint already, right? As it says in Amos 3 and 7, surely the Most High God will do nothing, but he revealeth his secrets unto his servants, the prophets, right? So he's not going to do anything before he tells us, right? Um, it was more on that, right? It says, for like as all that is made in the world hath a beginning and an end, and the end is manifest, right? It says, even so, the times also of the highest have plain beginnings and wonders and powerful works, and endings and effects and signs. And everyone that shall be saved shall shall be able to escape by his works and by faith whereby you have believed. So it don't say you go escape by how many guns you got. It don't say how you go escape by you know whatever, by your money. It says by your works and by your faith, right? And who are the ones keeping the works and the faith? That's gonna be the elect, the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans that repent and come back to their God-given nationality, right? That's the only way you gonna be saved, right? Um, let's go to chapter 15. Don't want this to be too long. I got something else to go into. I might chop it in half and do a whole separate other video, right? Um, this second Esdras 15 and 1. It says, behold, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy, which I will put in thy mouth. So all of this is prophecy right here. It says, and cause them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true. It says, fear not. All right. It says, fear not the imaginations against thee. Let not the incredulity, meaning the unbelief, of them that trouble thee that speak against thee. For all the unfaithful shall die in their unfaithfulness. And they think that it been a lot of massive death in this time. It's going to be a whole lot more death, right? As it says in Isaiah 24, the Lord is going to make the earth empty, right? It also says in Second Esdras, I believe the 8th chapter, that he made this world right here for many, meaning this society, this age. He made it for many, but the world to come for few, right? So it's gonna be a lot of people that die, you know, in these last times, in these latter days, right? That death toll is gonna go up. It says, verse 5, behold, saith the Lord, I will bring plagues upon the world, the sword, famine, death, and destruction. When it's talking about the sword, it's talking about war. It's talking about that violence that this article is about, right? This is the sword, right? War, acts of violence, right? Protests and all these things, right? All of that is the sword, right? It says famine, death, and destruction, right? So you have famine, death, and destruction. It's going to be a lot of people that's starving in these latter days because you got Trump. He want to hold back on SNAP benefits and all that. That's another video I'm gonna do, Lord willing. Right? Trump, he changing the age range for the SNAP benefits on how you can file your child as a dependent and these things, and how can you be eligible for SNAP benefits. So it's going to be a lot of people starving, right? It says death and destruction, right? And also going back to that SNAP benefits thing, that's going to push a lot of people to start stealing, a lot of people to start looting, because don't nothing get you out of your mind besides being hungry. People when people start being hungry, they finna start robbing these stores. A lot of banks is finna get robbed. A lot of grocery stores is finna get boosted, right? And looted. A lot of these things, people is finna start going back to what is it? Primal nature, primal instinct, meaning acting animalistic, acting like animals. They finna just take, right? These are the times that we moving towards, right? It says death and destruction, right? It says for wickedness have exceedingly polluted the whole earth, right? And these are the times that we in right now. Wickedness is exceedingly polluting the whole earth, and their hurtful works are fulfilled, right? So all over the earth, you got wickedness going on, right? All over the earth. Therefore, saith the Lord, I will hold my tongue no more as touching their wickedness, which they profanely commit. Neither will I suffer them in those things in which they wickedly exercise themselves. Right. So you got people exercising themselves in wickedness. You got those of our people doing that, and you got the wicked who are the white man. He's doing it, and the other nations. They all exercising themselves. You got child trafficking rings, child sex trafficking rings. You got adult sex traffic rings. You see what Diddy going through, right? That's what he's going through right now, right? You got people murdering for hire. Dirk, he fighting RICO cases for murder for hire. You know, all these things is going on right now, right? And people are exercising themselves in wickedness. It says, "Behold, the innocent and righteous blood crieth unto me." Right. So the blood of those that are fallen, right, of the Israelites, right? We tell the white man every week, you standing on the blood of slaves and Native Americans, right? That built this country, and you get to walk up and down freely on stolen land, right? That blood that's being walked upon and that's being forgotten about is still crying to the Most High, right? It's still there as a witness to the Lord that He has to send vengeance upon this wicked nation, right? It says, and the souls of the just complain continually, right? Because we constantly, praying to the Most High, facing the east, praying to the Lord for revenge, praying to the Lord for salvation, right? It says, and therefore saith the Lord, I will surely avenge them and receive unto me all the innocent blood from among them, right? Um, let's go down to right here, right? Verse 14. It says, woe to the world and them that dwell therein, right? For the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, right? It says, and one people shall stand up to fight against another, and swords in their hands. The modern day sword is the gun, right? So it say people gonna stand up and fight against another, and they gonna have swords in their hands. Let's talk about war, not just regular country versus country war. That's talking about civil war as well, right? It says, for there shall be sedition among men and invading one another, right? What's the definition of sedition? Let's get there real quick, right? Sedition is overt conduct such as speech and organization that tends toward rebellion against the established order. So people going against the established order. What's the established order? The government, right? People rising up against politicians, people rising up against the police, people rising up against the judges, right? People rising up against the president, right? It says, and includes subversion of a constitution, right? And incitement of discontent toward or insurrection against established authority, right? So, yeah, that's what's going to be going on, right? It says, there shall be sedition among men, people rising up against the world powers and invading one another, right? They shall not regard their kings nor princes. And your modern day king is the president, right? Or your prime minister or your government officials, right? Nor princes, right? That's talk about your politicians and all of those people. It say, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power, meaning the people is gonna overthrow the government. Like what's going on in what is that? Is that Venezuela? It's either Venezuela or Tijuana, one of the two. where they damn overthrew the government down there, right? That's coming to America. It said a man shall desire to go into a city and should not be able, right? They gonna have roadblocks, city blocks, blockades. You can't even go across the ocean, right? Nations gonna be besieged. All these things is finna come to pass, man. Right? All these things is finna come to pass. Right? I'm gonna jump to verse 19. It says, "A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword, and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation." Right? So, like I said, that day, them days of cracking open the cold pack with your neighbor, y'all sitting in the garage with each other, talk about the game, talk about how the Packers beat the Bears, or how the Dodgers is, go beat the Pirates or whatever. Y'all talk about these things, and those days is gonna come to an end. Now you and your neighbor, y'all finna be beefing because there's not no food in the grocery stores. You know, one of y'all got kids, the other one he doesn't. The one that has kids, his kids are on the verge of starving, they're on the verge of dying. And you got all that food over there, but you don't want to share because you on the verge of starving and dying yourself, and you trying to ration your food out. How you go make it last for you and stretch. He knows you got food over there, and he's not gonna let his kids die. So he's gonna come over there and take what you have, and it's gonna be survival of the fittest. That's what the world is coming to in these last days, man. All right. I'm gonna grab one more precept and I'm gonna close this lesson out because I got class. All right. Let's go to the book of Luke, chapter 17 and 26. Luke 17 and 26, right? Because that's the reason why I started out with Genesis. This is all going back to how it was in the days of Noah, right? This is Luke chapter 17 and verse 26. It says, "As it were in the days of Noah, so shall it be also in the days of the Son of Man." Salakia. So shall it be also in the days of the Son of Man. They did eat, they drank, they married wives, they were given in marriage until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and the flood came and destroyed them all away. Right? So it said what? They ate, they drank, meaning what? They partied, they kicked it, they married wives, people, started happy lives, and people had no regard for the truth, no regard for God, no regard for how the world was turning, right? Until what? Until Noah, entered into the ark when them raindrops started hitting and the flood came and destroyed all their ass, man. That flood came and destroyed them all. It says, likewise, also in the days of Lot, they did eat, they drank, meaning they partied, they kicked it in Sodom and Gomorrah. They bought, they sold, they planted, they builded, right? But the same day that Lot went out of Sodom, it rained fire and brimstone from heaven and destroyed them all. Even thus shall it be in the day when the Son of Man is revealed, right? So it's gonna be just like that when Yahushua comes back. What you got people doing? They partying, they kicking it. They ain't got no regard for the will of the Most High. Talk about you blacks and Hispanics, right? The white man, he definitely ain't got no regard for God, right? Right now, Trump is trying to play God, right, and trying to win over the approval of blacks and Hispanics, right? And so, you just got to be prepared. You got to be circumspect. You got to watch, man. You got to watch and see what's going on. Have your ear to the it's a saying that we got in the hood. You got to have your ear to the street, man. Not literally, but you just got to be circumspect of what's going on and how the world is changing, right? And ultimately, the only way to prepare for that is for you to start keeping these commandments as an Israelite and repent, you blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, because y'all the only ones that can be saved, right? So with that, I'm gonna give all honor and all glory to the Most High God Yahweh, by Hashem Yahushua, right? I'm say shalom.